Alrighty then. So are we ready for the third version of the series we're doing on crossing over the leg? I'm getting a thumbs up. All right. So notice how you are lying on the floor. This warm summer day. You can, as you get in contact with the floor, what stands out to you as being, well, what catches your attention? What catches your attention? Is there one place or several areas? And then let's kind of map that out. Wherever you feel is the heaviest place. If you went opposite, what is that, the opposite place of that place? So if it's your right buttock, what's the left buttock like? Or if you went on a diagonal from that place, sort of using the heaviest place you feel as an anchor, and then wandering through your body and looking around, sniffing around. Feel, how do these other places that touch the floor relate in terms of heaviness or lightness? And notice your breathing. Notice your breathing running always underneath. Always it's there. And just bring your consciousness to it. Notice what part of you breathes the most, and how does breathing, or does breathing, affect the part or parts of you that rest on the floor with the most weight? So does breathing make them heavier or lighter, or move them in any way? And then could you notice if one leg, without looking, without raising your head to look, can you tell which one of your baby toes might be closer to the floor? So in other words, which leg might be more turned out? And then if you were to raise your head to look, does raising your head change that? Does raising the head to look at your feet, does it change how they were lying in the first place? And then could you test the weight of your right leg? That's just the long straight leg. Feel its length, feel down at the heel, the weight, where you're resting on the heel, and just lift the whole leg away from the floor so the heel leaves the floor just a little bit. And feel, do you shift your weight in any way when you do that? Does the pressure change along your backside? Does your head want to turn? Anything happen in your chest or your ribs or your breathing? Your chest, your rib cage, your breath, as you test the weight of your long right leg. And then compare to the other leg. Lift the long left leg and feel, what parts of you do you recruit to do that? So do you lift the leg? Do you feel that you lift the leg mostly from the front of the hip? Or is there some place or places higher up through you that somehow come online to help you get behind that movement of just lifting the left leg a little tiny bit. And then probably, maybe it's getting a little easier as you do it more. So go back to lifting the right leg just once with your breath, and then lift the left leg. And whichever one was easiest, could you stand up the opposite leg? Stand the foot of the opposite leg so the knee is facing the ceiling and the sole of the foot is on the floor. So your heavy leg will be bent and your lighter leg will be long. And then as we've been playing with the past couple of weeks, can you bring your foot closer to the long leg until you maybe run into it and come to step over it. If you can place your standing foot on the other side of your long leg. And maybe just the toe pads touch down, or maybe the foot doesn't want to touch down. Maybe it stands on your leg. So you just do what you can do. You just pick up the bent leg and stand the foot somewhere, maybe to the side of the long leg. And notice the path that the foot takes through space. Notice what your knee does. Notice if any part of you wants to roll. So what if you were to, the next time you pick up your leg to step across, let your pelvis of the stepping leg come away from the floor, so that maybe it's a little easier to touch down with the stepping foot. And does your chest turn? How far into you does turning the pelvis hook in? Do the ribs turn? Do you get heavier on the opposite side, on the long leg side? And what happens in the rib area of the long leg side? Do the ribs expand and come further apart, or do they closer together somehow? Does your rib cage reshape itself in a way that expands or in a way that contracts? And if you're rolling your head in one direction with the stepping leg, could you a couple of times just try rolling your head or turning your face the opposite direction? As you step with the foot over, the head goes a different direction than you were just going. What does that change? And the next time you step, could you come back to your starting position and take twice as long to get there, so that the rhythm of your stepping changes, and returning the stepping foot to be next to the long leg happens much slower than stepping across. So you get there quicker than you come home. Although usually when we're traveling, it's the opposite, right? It takes forever to get there and it doesn't take so long to get back. So take a rest. And how has all of that experimenting, how have those explorations changed anything about your sense of yourself lying on the floor? Stand your other leg. Stand your other leg. Now let's just do a taste test, just a comparison test. Move the leg to step, either on or across the long leg. You're stepping over the opposite side. And do you right away think to roll your pelvis? And if not, if you roll the pelvis, how would you roll it? Would it help the foot touch down? Would it help the leg feel not so constrained? What part of the foot touches down? Is it the inner border, the outer border, the toe pads? What happens to your rib cage on the side of the leg that's long? What happens to your rib cage of the stepping leg on that side? What happens to your rib cage on the side of your stepping leg? Which way does your head turn? Or maybe it doesn't turn at all, but you could play with that. You could play with turning it the opposite direction. Okay, excellent. Take a rest. And now just check in with the weight of your legs again. Lift your right heel and entire leg away from the floor. And then compare that to the other side. And then could you place your arms down by your sides with your palms down and raise the entire right arm just a wee bit, just to feel the lightness of being. And then the next time you lift your right arm, could you lift your left leg and think that the leg could be as light as the arm. What happens in your chest? Does anything happen in your ribs or your neck? Does the weight shift across your back anywhere? And then pause. Then lift your left arm. And how heavy is your left arm compared to your right? Just a wee bit. The arm's straight, the elbow comes away from the floor, the finger pads come away from the floor. You can do it with your breathing. What engages in your chest? What part of your shoulder moves? What part of you becomes heavier as the arm lifts? And then the next time you lift your arm, could you lift your opposite leg? Just a wee bit. In a way that the leg you could think of it as being as light as your arm. As light as your arm. And what would you need to do with yourself to make the leg as light as the arm? How might you use your interior? How might the floor be of service to you organizing your interior? What's that conversation like? And then just take a rest. Make another comparison between the right leg and the left. Is one still lighter, or did it change? Which one is lighter? And whichever leg is lighter, stand the opposite leg. So maybe you stand the same one as before, maybe you change your mind. And can you step over to the other side with that foot, step over the long leg, and feel where it can comfortably come to rest. Feel where the standing, or yeah, the stepping leg, the stepping foot can comfortably come to rest. And from there, notice the orientation of your heel relative to the front of the foot, the toes. And could you begin to swivel your heel a little closer to your leg and then a little further away? Just pivot the heel so it comes to look more at the long leg, and then it comes a bit away. And what happens with the knee of the standing leg as you swivel the heel to the right and to the left, or pivoting over the ball of the foot? At some point, does the knee start to turn in or turn out and wave to the right and to the left? So you can allow that to happen. So maybe as the knee goes to the outside, the foot starts to come away from the floor on the inner border. And then pause. And then with that same foot crossed over the long leg, could you now pivot on the heel? Pivot on the heel of that standing foot so that the front of the foot, the toes, sweep across the floor to the right and to the left. The toes sweep across the floor to the right and to the left. And what happens in the angle of the knee? What happens in the hip joint? And the next time you take your toes away from the long leg, could you find a way to start to roll towards the long leg as well? Just start to roll towards the long leg as well. So the knee will come closer to the floor. The knee of the standing foot comes closer to the floor. How do you help yourself? The head can turn, you can look. Okay, this is excellent. The next time you return to your back, please take a rest. Stand up that same foot, whichever one you had standing before, and can you reach across with your opposite arm to take hold of your ribs on the same side of the bent leg? And with a gentle little tug, can you sort of pull your ribs over to help you roll towards your long leg? So you can sort of give a tug through the fingertips and the hand that's reaching across and help your ribs. You can move your hand along the rib cage, place it in different places. Feel how you can help your ribs organize to come over onto the side, more towards the long leg. And again here, notice the head's participation or lack thereof, and start to play with that, because here's where we can uncouple some habits by doing something different than we might normally do. We're all advanced Feldenkrais people here, all advanced Feldies. So you could take your eyes opposite the direction of your head. Oh yes, you can. Okay, let's take a rest. Stand up the foot that you've been standing up, same leg. And now, can you step over the long leg a couple of times and feel how that goes? Maybe the pelvis turns, maybe you roll. But yeah, let's roll. And as you step across your long leg, can you begin to sweep the same arm as leg that is long along the floor in an arc? So it sweeps like you're making a snow angel. And you watch it. And then it sweeps down so that the stepping leg, the rolling pelvis, the turning spine, and the sweeping arm all move, find a way they can start to move together. And then with the opposite arm, could you begin to sweep it downwards? Downwards, more so it comes closer to your pelvis. Then you can time this to go with your breathing. You can play with the palms of the hands being up or down, or one up and the other down, and see which variation serves you better, which makes the this whole sweeping movement of the arms and rolling and turning and crossing is very complex movement, but how can you make it more satisfying? How can you make it softer, easier, lighter, like it's rolling off a log, as easy as rolling off a log? And let's take a rest. Stand up your leg again, the same leg that you've been using, and bring it to stand on the other side of the long leg. So whichever leg you had long, step across there, And now bring your attention to the leg that's long. We've been sort of ignoring it. And could you find a way to roll the long leg so that you come closer to the baby toe of that leg, and then you come closer to the big toe. Now, Feldenkrais actually says in this lesson, so that you bring the outer border of the long leg to the floor, and then you bring the inner border of the long leg to the floor. But you don't have to do that. But if you were to think of that, it does change the picture, doesn't it? And it changes what you might engage in yourself and how you might engage with the floor. We're advanced, so you know how to take care of yourself and not overdo, right? And you can always welcome that moment when you feel the urgency to go further, and just wonder where that comes from. Uncross your long your bent leg and lengthen it down. And feel the memory of the movement in your left hip, the leg of the side of the leg that is long. What does that hip joint feel like? What's the memory of that movement for that hip joint? What's the memory of the movement in the length of the leg and down into the heel? Stand up your trustworthy standing leg. Step across the long leg. And now, can you begin to sweep the long leg a little away from the standing foot and back? A little away and a little back. So you're in quite a constraint here with the crossed legs and the hip joints and the pelvis, but could you just sweep the heel of the long leg to the right and to the left? And when you get to the midpoint between right and left the next time with that long leg, could you lift it in the air just a wee bit? So you sweep the long leg away from the standing foot, and you sweep it back, and when you go again to the midpoint, you lift and you lower the long leg. And do you employ the standing foot at all? How do you employ the floor? Let's take a rest. Let's play with it a little bit differently. Stand up the leg you've been standing, and interlace your hands and bring them behind your head. And could you help your head move to the right and to the left? So carry it to the right and carry it to the left, helping with your arms and your hands. So your right elbow comes closer to your pelvis on the right, and then your left elbow comes closer to your pelvis on the left. And feel the folding of the ribs on one side and the opening of the ribs on the other. And feel, where do you catch hold of this movement? So where does the movement originate? Does it originate in the hands and the arms or in the shoulders? Listen. How far through yourself do you feel this movement? Good. Now, change the interlacing of your fingers and step across your long leg with your standing leg. Step across. And now begin to sweep the long leg to the right and to the left. And it might be just the tiniest movement. That's fine. But help with your head, help with your arms and your head to, if your leg is sweeping to the right, carry your head to the right. If your leg is sweeping to the left, carry your head to the left. And feel this arc that the heel of the long leg is making on the floor. Feel the arc that the head is making, or the backs of the hands are making on the floor through space. Feel the relationship between the head and the pelvis. And let's take a rest. If you lifted one long leg and then lifted the other to compare their weight, is anything changing there? Is anything changing in how you engage with the leg? I can see some major changes. Good. Stand your standing foot, the one you've been using, and a couple of times just bring it to step across the long leg, and feel how you do that. And then the next time the foot is across the long leg, leave it there and begin to take, so we've swept the long leg to the right and the left, and we've also lifted it up and down. So could you sweep the long leg and bring it close to the standing foot, the outside of the heel there, and then bring it up the calf. Bring the standing, so the standing, the long leg is going to go up the calf on the outside of the calf and then down the inner thigh of the standing leg. So you want to move the leg in such a way that it travels up the calf and down the thigh, and it makes a triangle. So it's describing a triangle, with the base of the triangle being the surface of the floor. And it might be just the tiniest movement. Or you can imagine it, you know. Let's take a rest. Let's try that again, but go the opposite direction with the long leg. So you'll move your heel, you'll move the leg away from the standing foot, and then you'll go up the thigh and over and down the calf. You'll just reverse the triangular path of your long leg. Now, my neighbor just started his leaf blower. Can everyone hear that? No. Okay, good. Thank you, Zoom. Take a rest. If you're ready, stand up the foot, the leg that you've been using, and bring it across the long leg. And then could you, the next time you do that, sweep the arm of the leg that's long, on the same side of the leg that's long, sweep it along the floor. So you're going to step across your leg and now somehow employ the foot of the standing leg. I don't know how you'll do it, but you're going to sweep the long arm. The sweeping arm is going to go up. It's the same arm as leg that is long. And now think about the leg that is long starting. Think about the leg that is long starting to bend towards the opposite hand. So the pelvis is rolling. The knee of the standing leg is going to come closer to the floor, but maybe you can somehow employ the foot on the floor. And you're going to be bending the long leg in the direction of your hand that's closest to it as you sweep the other arm up long, and you could even lift your head and bring it over the long arm onto the floor in front, and then come back. Quite a maneuver.
Okay.
And we could spend 3 entire lessons on just the movement of the head relative to the arm. And some of you may remember those lessons. And maybe your head doesn't come to rest on the floor in front. That's okay. You can try leaving the long leg long. You can try leaving it, bending it up. Kicking yourself in the ass.
Good place.
But if you caught hold, now I'm only if this is an easy thing. If you were to catch hold of the sole of your foot, could you keep hold of it and roll to the side and back? Okay. Cirque du Soleil, here we come. Take a rest.
I'm evened out now.
You feel evened out now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so listen to that. Where was that first patch of weight, or what caught your attention at the beginning of the lesson? Has that sort of oozed into a different kind of terrain? What's your image? What is the image? The presence of the change. Sense the presence of what has changed. As this is how we can remember the lesson. If we remember what has changed and then recall it later. So check in with which leg might be lighter, how you lift one long leg, how you lift the other, has that changed? Just how you interact with that part of yourself. And then roll to your side and bring yourself up to standing. Feel how you stand on your own 2 feet.